Our top focus today, the high-stake elections in Taiwan have begun. Voters began casting ballots in Taiwan's presidential and legislative elections, and a poll closely watched as China steps up its rhetoric over the self-ruled island. Now, polls opened at 8 a.m. local time at nearly 18,000 locations from the island's south to its capital, Taipei. Now, Taiwan's President Tsai Ing-wen has cast her vote. Now remember that Tsai is constitutionally barred from standing again after 2 terms in office. And all running presidential candidates have also cast their votes. Now, Lai Ching-te from the ruling DPP, Ho Yu-hee from opposition party KMT, and TPP leader Ko Wen-je were all among the early voters. Now, meanwhile, Taiwan's defense ministry says that it had detected 2 Chinese balloons crossing the Taiwan Strait in the previous 24 hours, and one of which flew over Taiwan Island. In another development, China's social media platform Weibo has blocked a hashtag on Taiwan's election. It had become one of the most trending topics on the site this morning, but it was soon taken down. Now, earlier, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken met with Liu Jianzhao, a veteran Chinese diplomat and a top contender to be China's next foreign minister. And the meeting took place in Washington just hours before the polls in Taiwan. The United States continues to caution China against using the elections as a pretext for instability. And as per reports quoting the State Department, Blinken has asked China for cross-strait stability. And for more, we have political analyst Courtney Donovan-Smith, who's joining us live from Taipei. Thank you so much for joining us on this broadcast, Mr. Smith.
Well, it's great to be here.
Now, I'll begin with my first question. Now, high-stakes presidential election, which is mostly closely watched, and since its first in 1996 amid existential threat of China. Now, would you agree it's a choice between democracy and autocracy? And what do we expect this time?
Well, it's being framed that way, and I think that none of the candidates actually would say that they are going to, reimpose autocracy. But the question is will Taiwan remain autonomous from China? And all of the candidates have talked strong on national defense and maintaining Taiwan's autonomy. So none of the candidates disagree on that fundamental principle. But the question is how much to integrate with or to not integrate with China. So, for example, the KMT, or the Kuomintang candidate, and the Taiwan People's Party candidate, these are Ho Yu-hee and Ko Wen-je, both have talked about restarting the Cross-Strait Services Pact, which would allow much Chinese investment within the private sector, which would possibly allow a greater involvement by the Chinese side into key segments of Taiwan's industry, business, and infrastructure. On the other hand, the Democratic Progressive Party is saying that no, they do not want to have a cross-strait services pact. They don't want to integrate further economically with China and want to retain some distance and keep some how do you say it? It's keep some distance and some autonomy away from economic integration.
Mr. Smith, speaking of China's imprint on the election day, we're already seeing China's imprint on the election day, from influencing social media platforms to detection of new balloons. How are the voters looking at China's role here?
Well, I mean, these pressure tactics have been consistent and they've been going on for a long time. So there's some voters, I think, are influenced by this, but a lot of voters, I think, are a little bit jaded at this point. And something that I think outsiders don't remember is that Taiwan has been basically under threat from China since the late 1940s or early 1950s. So these there is always a lot of press tension when the escalation increases, but there has been waves of heavier pressure and lower pressure going on now for about 70 years.
Yes, it's also a topic, like you mentioned, that the Taiwanese are now actually tired of thinking and talking about. But if we were to talk about other concerns for the voters, is the question of China dominating all other concerns of the voters?
Well, it is and it isn't. It is in the sense that it always does. I mean, the identity of the two primary legacy parties here in Taiwan is about the identity of the people here, meaning the Democratic Progressive Party. Democratic Progressive Party talks about how they are primarily based on the identity and sovereignty and the idea of Taiwanese being a separate people, whereas the Kuomintang has an identity based on whether or not Taiwanese are part of the greater Chinese, the greater Chinese entity. Now, the Taiwan People's Party says they want to attack or deal with all these issues in a very pragmatic manner. Now, the last two elections were one almost entirely devoted to issues related to China. In this election, I think that China plays a major role, but some domestic issues have also cropped up. The declining demographics, unaffordable housing, and it's very difficult for young people to get well-paid jobs. These are issues that have also played a role.
So apart from China's threat that looms over Taipei, according to you, there are domestic issues right now as well, which are posing themselves as challenges. But thank you so much, Mr. Smith, for joining us and giving us all your insights. Thank you for joining in.
Oh, thank you very much.